Hey, it's Lisa Danforth, business strategist and leadership vision coach. And I am back this time with Paula Diaco on take two. A month or so ago, I interviewed the fabulous Paula, and it was all fuzzy and crazy. So we had to delete it. So I'm super excited that Paula agreed to come back. Paula is a book and writing coach from Write Stories Now. We're going to be talking about the value of writing a book proposal. So we're going to jump right into that in just a moment. First, I just want to say, if you could pop into the comment section where you're dialing in from, whether it's a different part of the world or LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, one of those, that would be great. And I want to share a little bit about Paula, because she's got so much that she brings to the table that I want to make sure that I really put her experience out there. So Paula helps creative entrepreneurs play with words and language so they can bring their stories to life. Entrepreneurs who see the value of writing a book come to see her for the storytelling tools that she offers. She also helps people like me, hesitant but otherwise creative entrepreneurs, learn how to enjoy the writing process so that the challenge of writing doesn't keep smacking them in the face. I love that, Paula.
Exactly.
But presents itself as a means to increasing their visibility and marketing reach, or simply help them to get their beautiful book written. Another little thing about Paula is Paula's writing career started as in a not so usual place, a microbiology lab, standing in a lab coat and a Bunsen burner on a bench top. She was thinking about adding professional writing as her budding career as a scientist. And look at where you are right now. Like, you are
I know.
writing up. So thank you so much, Paula. I really appreciate it. Can you share a little bit more about your experience and your path of getting here?
Yeah, it is actually kind of funny. And I, at first, let me just step back a minute and just tell you a little bit of my thought around coming to this place. And I really had to think hard about whether I was going to admit I'm a microbiologist, because people, expect somebody with a degree in literature or writing or something like that. And then I realized that actually my degree in science really set me up for a career in writing as well. Before I graduated college, I was submitting articles and became a contributing editor to a trade magazine in the science industry, science field. So yeah, and from there, I went on to work in technical publications at DuPont, because I could prove that I could write and I knew what a centrifuge was. Exactly. So that became a 2-year. I was paid, but essentially it was an internship. And it taught me the publication process, about printing, about project management for manuals, which are essentially books. And then from there, I went on to do freelance work. I had developed a relationship with a colleague there who went on to work for an educational publisher, and I did work for them, including writing a book, lots of educational media for children, lots and lots of fun. The book was on science as well. It was about the plant kingdom. So, and then I just, came to all sorts of other sorts of freelance work and other jobs for a magazine publisher, lots of editing work, proofreading, and then my own writing. And I realized, kind of later in life, that I had something. I had all of this experience, and I love books. I love people who write them. And I thought, why am I not working with those people? And then I did. And I started to. And so
I love that you shared your path, right? So it's not always a direct path to getting there,
exactly.
but everything that
Yeah.
you've done has really contributed to all that you bring to all of your clients and the
It
variety
really
of clients that you work with. I want to give a shout out to Leora Dowling, who is joining us today. Thank you so much for shouting out there. And also, Allie is here. Allie,
Awesome.
congratulations on your new book. I want to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
Congratulations. So thank you, ladies, for joining us. Paula, let's just jump right in, because I want to make sure that everyone gets all the amazing brilliance that you're going to share today. Talking about writing a book proposal and the importance of it, where does someone start? What's the first thing that they really need to be thinking of and doing?
Yeah, well, I think, and this is true for books in general, but if you're writing a nonfiction book and you're going to be publishing it traditionally, you have to have this. And this people who are self-publishing, I feel also should be writing it. That's the whole crux of this topic today. But the first thing I ask them to do is to demonstrate to me their big why. Why are they writing the book? And the reason why I ask that is because writing a book is a big deal. It can be a big effort. It can be, if you're writing memoir, it can be an emotional, bring up emotional upheaval, thinking about your life. So sit down and be honest, journal on the question, why am I writing this book? And just be, even if it's bringing up anxiety or trepidation, if you are feeling that you can overcome that and you can do it anyway, then that's a really good thing. And of course, if you're coached through it, that's helpful. But the big why is important. Why are you doing it? If it's just because everybody, all the cool kids are doing it, maybe you want to rethink that.
So, and the why is so important in anything that we do, right?
It
It's
is,
that magnetic
for
pull.
sure.
Could you share your why as to the work, why you do the work you do, so you can give an example? Because I think people struggle with determining their why, but when we can hear a couple of different samples, that might allow us to step into it easier.
Yeah, and my big why, and interestingly enough, I write personal essay, which is nonfiction. I write magazine articles, which is nonfiction. But in terms of books, I write for children and they're fiction. They're novel, not nonfiction. My big why is because I have huge stories to tell, as do we all. I am not unique in that. And I want to speak to children's issues. And so I use the novel writing technique to do that.
Beautiful, right? So it probably took you a while to sort of really dig deep and be able to articulate it. We don't need to know our why and be able to articulate it perfectly the first time. So play around with it and really work with a book coach who can help you pull it out as well.
Absolutely.
So Paula, now that if they've got their why down, what's the next step that they need to be focusing on?
So then we need to talk about their audience and their topic, because they are very closely aligned. You have to have an audience for your topic, and you have to speak to your audience about something, right? So
it's a good thing to focus on.
It kind of is. And because we're entrepreneurs and I work with entrepreneurs, helping them with their nonfiction book, it's often not that hard. They know if they have clients, that their clients have issues, and they help them with them, presumably. So it often isn't hard to come up with a problem that they could write a book around. It's fine tuning it. So they'll have a topic when they need a really fine-tuned idea around it. And so I help them define and refine that. And we then do work around figuring out how many possible readers there are for it, because a publisher actually does want to know if there are readers for this book. And it's proven through Google searches, as well as looking at the competition that you may have. And the competition is not your competition, it's your book's competition. So you're going to need to do some Amazon searches, Google searches, to determine who else has written in the same topic area as you plan to. And what do you offer that's a little different? So you've proven that there are books written, so we would assume too that there's an audience. But how are you going to show up and present something that is unique, but still fills a void for the people who are your audience? And this is the whole reason for a book proposal, is to figure all of this out so a publisher can pick it up and they're looking at essentially a creative business plan, and they can say, we are willing to invest in this project and publish it. And you want to show them and demonstrate clearly that what you have is something that is financially viable for them.
Well said. You mentioned a creative business plan. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think so many people get tripped up when we hear business plan. Just to sort of give a little more insight, because we were talking about it before we went live, and it was a really nice description.
Yeah, thank you. I probably won't match that, but I often say that I meet my clients at the intersection of business and creativity. And we work together in that beautiful little space, and we craft something that demonstrates their creative writing ability, so that you are going to include sample chapters to show that you can write. And you're also going to demonstrate again that you have an audience, and there's an audience of people eager to read the book. You are also, and this is something that causes a lot of anxiety for a lot of writers, even entrepreneurial ones, you're going to need to demonstrate your platform. And what your platform is an audience. Who are you speaking to? What are you telling them about who you are? And are they then going to be excited when they know that you're publishing a book and want to pre-order it, or be there at your launch party, whatever it is? But your platform is your audience. And for a nonfiction book, especially if you traditionally publish, but again, if you're self-publishing, you need this as well. Is there an audience of people who already know who you are and think you're worthy and worth listening to?
Can you go a little bit deeper on that? Because I think people may know that they need to do this, but they're not quite sure how to start that research, right? Just to be able to sort of step into it. And I think once they've done it, they'll figure it out further. But how do you start teasing all that out?
Yeah, so specifically platform, is that what you're,
Yeah,
is that what
specifically,
you're
I
saying?
mean, looking
Yeah.
at, will people read it? Like, well, I don't know. How do I sort of do some of that research to gather the information that I need?
So if you are writing content already, if you're writing magazine articles, if you're publishing on your own blog, if you're doing shows like this, if you have a podcast, are there people showing up? Are you seeing people commenting? Are they are they sharing your LinkedIn articles, or are they making comments on Instagram? If you are on social media, it's probably the fastest way to grow a platform, and you create followings that literary agents love to see. And potentially, again, if you're self-publishing, I always want to bring it back to that. These are people who are listening to you. They're liking your Instagram posts, they're sharing your LinkedIn articles and your LinkedIn posts. So it looks a lot like marketing. Actually, platform building is a lot like marketing. So it's not something that should scare entrepreneurs writing a book, but I'm not sure what it is. I think it's almost because it is tied in with a book which has so much heartfelt meaning to them, that it takes it out of it being a business activity, and it's bringing it into something that is very, again, very meaningful to them. And I think they put a little bit of the brakes on, and they get a little anxious about it. It's really actually kind of interesting to watch.
Really? So is
Yeah.
there, what's so interesting about it? Like, what's the highlight that you can notice what they're doing?
They are they're getting like anxious when we talk about social media. Like, which platform do they want to really like go in deep on and be very visible on? And that visibility, almost always I hear them sort of sucking in a little bit of air, like, yeah, yeah, like almost like they want to do a face palm, but they can't. They don't want to do it in front of me, but they're really like, I'm not entirely comfortable about that.
Mhm.
People who write memoir have real reasons to feel vulnerable. So they're writing the book, they're feeling a calling to write the book. It's going to help a group of people who's going to read it, but the whole process is just anxiety for them. So I do things, I work around their anxiety, and have come up with some ways that they can do it where they're actually using their writing talents, such as magazine articles, such as blogging, being on Medium. If they are an entrepreneur and they're on LinkedIn, or if they're not on LinkedIn, I get them on LinkedIn. You had a question, it looked like you wanted to ask.
You said, or if they're on Medium, can you just share what Medium is for those who don't know?
Yeah, sure. Medium.com is a huge, huge, huge public, I call it a public blogging site. You can create an account there and you can start writing immediately. I mean, as soon as you stop watching this, you can go there and yep, exactly. You can register and you can start writing. And then they have ways of becoming, I forget what the title is, but basically you link with the Medium, the people at Medium, they start reading your work, they take the best of your work, and that is what they share with people who are subscribers. Yes, and it's huge. It's a huge, huge site. You want to follow people and you want to encourage people to follow you. People can comment. It is social media. Blogging on our own sites is social media, and Medium is social media. But I call it quiet social media because it isn't.
I love that.
Yeah, it isn't loud like Twitter. It isn't visual if you're, a little bit shy about your appearance or just sharing all of your personal moments on Instagram. You don't have to do that. You can add photos to your articles there, but you can also use some unsplash photos as well. So it's one way of being seen. And I do something I recommend for those clients, and I was starting to say this, who are on LinkedIn, to do a trifecta. I call it a social media trifecta, where they post initially on their blog, then they copy and paste into a long form LinkedIn article. Then they go to Medium, and Medium will allow, if you put the URL into a box, it allows you, Medium, to pull that article from whatever website it's on, whether it's your blog or LinkedIn, into Medium, and then attributing where it originated from. So it's bypassing Google's don't duplicate content by showing that it was somewhere else, and it's just copying it here for your reading pleasure, if you will. So I tell people to do it that way. They're getting a lot of different eyes on their work, and they're taking one piece and using it in 3 different ways. So that's something that they can do.
Such an important piece of that proposal, like you're saying, that creative business
Yes.
plan, the who,
Yes.
The audience, the title, this
Yes.
way of getting themselves out there. Thank you for sharing Medium and what it can do, because it is such a huge piece. And I know you're going to mention a little bit about news magazines and getting articles out there more to our fans. So stay tuned if you want to learn a little bit more about that. Can you talk a little bit more about really the topic and refining the topic and how you can really make sure that it's something that is interesting and compelling?
Yeah. So one thing I have my clients do is to do a search in Amazon for, again, they're called comps, they're comparables. So look at what else has been written about and by whom. Look at what is, you look at the description, see what their angle is, if they will, who they're speaking to. Does that sound like who you are speaking to? Is it very broad and general, and you have something much more niched in terms of your topic, but it's still under the umbrella of the comparables? And then that helps you to really determine where you're unique. And you want to be unique. You want to have a different perspective. Maybe you want to take a contrarian view of what is being written about, and your view is valid, but no one has addressed it from a contrarian point of view. Maybe there are adult versions of one type of topic, and you're doing the version for young adults, something like that. You could want to be able to see what's already there, and then sort of take it in and decide, how am I different from that, and who is my audience? And defining their audience is really just so key. They really need to know who it is they're speaking to, and presumably it is the same people that they are working with, offering their products and services to, and just keep whittling away at what it is. And if there is enough interest by an agent, if you are traditionally publishing, and they look at it and they love a lot about your proposal, they want to take you on, they may work with you a tish as well, when it comes to things like your audience. If you're really far off the mark, they're not going to give you the time of day. But if you are otherwise showing some real promise to them and they have an editor in mind to pitch it to, they may spend a little time with you helping you.
I want to just sort of go back for what you had just said. You mentioned traditional publishing, and I know we were talking about self-publishing as well. Can you just share for those who are starting this and they're just not quite sure, can you just describe the difference briefly of the difference between self-publishing and traditional publishing so that someone might be able to see which avenue they want to go down?
Sure, absolutely. So traditional publishing are those books that you're seeing in bookstores. So it's the Simon and Schuster's. There's just been a great big merger. Again, it's in the works, but the big names are eating each other up. And it used to be the big five, and now it's going to be the big four. So, your St. Martin's Press, which is a subsidiary, your Simon and Schuster, those, even Scholastic, which is an independently owned publisher of educational material, are traditional publishers. And Hay House actually is also a traditional publisher of metaphysical books who takes agented only submissions. And they had to because they're so popular. But they are houses that are going to take your book proposal and examine it and determine if it's something that they want in their book, list of books that they've already published. Does it complement what they do? They will look to see, is it kind of a repeat of something they already have? So they won't accept it necessarily, but you have to generally go through an agent for a traditional publisher.
So I'm hearing more hoops, more that you've got to jump through, definitely more difficult, and really it could be a much longer process.
It could be a longer process. It can be a longer process for sure. If you had a book a book contract today signed, it's probably going to be 18 months, depending on the house, before you actually see the book. There are great advantages, however, and that includes they do all the book cover design, interior layout. They do offer some form of publicity. They will want you to be very much involved in marketing, but their distribution is what really sets them apart. They have awesome distribution. So your book will be in bookstores around the country. They will be probably in libraries too, depending on the type of book. To do it independently, you can get in them, but they're not, the bookstores rather, and the libraries aren't going to be searching for your book per se. They're going to be going to the big house books and buying them first. So that is one big advantage of being traditionally published. Self-published gives you a lot of control. So you decide on the cover, you decide on the interior layout, and you wanted to ask something, I think.
Go ahead, finish.
Okay. And lots of other things. And there are hybrid publishers who offer services. You can buy a la carte or you can buy into their program. They will do the same thing. You will get royalties through them like a traditional publisher. And there are many different types of self-publishing companies, some assisted, some hybrid, that will do offer a variety of different services for you. So it just really depends on what it is you need if you're confident or not doing it on your own.
I'm really hearing that no matter what avenue you go down, you really should write a book proposal. It's going to benefit you no matter which one that you're going for. I just want to say that Leora popped in before and just said that this is terrific information. She has a question. Does having published in a magazine help you find an agent or a book publisher?
Yes, it does. And it is a tried and true and very acceptable and much sought after by agents and publishers. When they Google you, and they will, if magazine articles come up, yay, that's great, because that's building your audience, right? You're in a magazine, it's being read. If you're in a lot of magazines, you're getting read a lot. And it's a really great way to build platform. It's very professional looking. And it also, interestingly, gives you practice pitching to an editor. You don't use an agent to get in magazines, but you do pitch to an editor. And it's a similar process to pitching to an agent or editor with your book. So you get some really good practice. You get really great credits. They see how well you write, and you have been vetted by that magazine. That, which is different than from blogging on Medium, which is super valuable. But somebody other than you has decided you're worthy of being published. And that makes it, I think it ranks it a little bit higher in the types of things you can do to build platform.
Great question, Leora. Thank you for putting it out there. And I want to share one question that Lori Hybe from Keystone Clicks posted on the event page for this, because she couldn't make it. So she wanted to ask a question, if you don't mind: how to structure the book in a way that is easy to read, but highly valuable for the reader. She's kind of struggling with that. She's like, I'm probably getting up in my head too much, but would you just talk about that for a bit?
Sure. So there are many genres of books, and I didn't actually ask her what she was writing in terms of the genre. There's how-to, there's inspirational, there's memoir, there are guides. And each of them has a certain structure, an expected structure that makes them a how-to versus a guide versus a memoir, right? So knowing which genre that you're going to be writing for or in is really helpful, because it has an expected way of disseminating the information. But even though you have that genre, and it's helpful to get other books. Again, you can get the comps that you think are competing with your book and examining them. Sit down, look at them very closely. How do they structure their chapters? Do they ask questions at the end? How do they do what they did to make a book that's highly readable? And it also goes back to knowing your audience. Are they going to enjoy answering some questions at the end? Would they like journal prompts? Would they like, if you're self-publishing and they are getting a Kindle version of your book, you can add links to pages on your website that gives people checklists or further information or things that they can look at and do that gets them even more engaged with your book. So there's lots of ways to do it. Knowing your big why is helpful. Knowing your audience is super helpful.
Right. And thank you for answering that. I really appreciate it. And one of the things that I really heard was a little R&D, right? Rob and
Yes.
duplicate, which
Yes.
we're not gonna plagiarize. But why? Everything's basically been done. So at the outlines and the platforms that call to you, and they will probably call to your audience.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
Right. So
exactly
we really
yes.
we do tend to make these things so difficult. Definitely.
Yes.
Well, I'm noticing that we're coming up on the half an hour. We can stay a few extra minutes if there's some questions, but I just want to ask you, just to honor everyone's time, is there any questions that I have not asked you that you would ask yourself to really be looking at this, putting the book proposal together, even if you're self-publishing?
Sure. So, what are all the parts of a book proposal? And it does vary, and traditional publishers often have a submission page, and that will indicate what parts they want in it. But very typically, you need to have your topic and your audience. You need to have perhaps a synopsis, sample chapters, an indication of your platform, your comps, absolutely. And there are several other things. I use a pretty robust list of items that I have my clients go through. It actually came from a publisher, and I have borrowed that and attribute it to them. So I again, not plagiarizing at all, but I find that the questions that they ask and they want their potential authors to answer for them really go deep and ask that writer to really, really, really navigate their topic well. And I think that's just super, super important. So, and can they be long? Yeah, they can be. They can be long. Frankly, they are.
Really?
Sometimes for memoir writers, it's sort of like writing the book. Yeah, they have to do a lot of things. But with it finally done, with your sample chapters, you have demonstrated an amazing roadmap for yourself. That writing it then is going to be easy and fun.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing your brilliance. Paula, where can people reach out to you if they want to ask you some questions, learn what it would be like to work with you? Can you share?
Sure. My website is WRITE, storiesnow.com. And they can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. I have a profile, and they can personally DM me there, which is fine. And I'm also on Facebook. They can reach me and access me there as well through personal messaging is great.
Wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate all of that. I do want to mention before we finish up, next week, December 17th, I cannot even believe that I'm actually saying that, at noon, I am interviewing Adrienne Gill from Adrienne Gill Consulting. She's going to be talking about, okay, so now you've gone virtual, now what, right? How do you stay or become agile within your business? It's going to be a great conversation. So we can stay on if there's any additional questions, but I just wanted to make sure that we wrapped it up. And thank you so much, Paula. I so appreciate you sharing all your brilliance and bringing this to the audience, because it's one of those things where you just don't know where to begin. So I want to say thank you to everyone. Here is to your success, whatever that success is to you. Have a great week. Thanks, Paula.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'm just going to stay and see if there's any additional questions. And there's not, other than Tracy. Thank you so much for joining us. Engagement is key. You're so right. All right, we're wrapping it up. Have a great week, everyone. Thanks.